Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to talk about a great feature within the MagicQ software known as soft palettes. Soft palettes are a continuation of the busking shortcuts or the palette timing that you have seen in other videos. But it's a way of doing it without involving the programmer as you play back those timings and those changes to your palettes. So to get started, this all happens in the execute screen. So we're going to get our execute screen ready to go. We're going to go to an empty execute screen. We're going to set a grid size, and in this example, we're going to do a 12 by 12. And then we're going to come back to our groups window, and we're going to copy a couple groups in here. We're going to copy our spots in this case. And we're going to copy our washes. Next, we need to create what's going to become the soft palette. A soft palette, in general speaking, is just a regular palette. It doesn't become something special until you put it in the execute screen. So all we're going to do is we're going to create a palette for these two fixtures, or sets of fixtures, that contains all of the attributes for the attribute set we would like the color palette to be. In this case, we're going to do color. So I've simply come in here and I've picked my two groups of fixtures. And in this case, I've just picked white, and I've made sure that all of the attributes that I want to include, so the entire color attribute set, so in this case, RGBW, the color wheel, and the CTO wheel for our spots and washes, is going to become part of that palette. So we'll go into our color window, and we'll scroll down to some empty palettes here. We'll hit record, and we'll touch an empty box. Now it may assign an icon guessing based on what we chose. We're going to unlink this palette. We can always reassign this icon. First, we'll give it a name. We'll call this soft 1. And then if we want, again, we can hold shift and tap set, touch our palette, and we're going to give this a little bit more unique icon. Let's use this multicolor one for here. So that's our soft palette. Again, it's nothing special right now. It's just a palette. The next thing we're going to want to do is create one for position, because we use position in this example as well. So again, we'll pick the two fixtures, sets of fixtures. We'll pick another palette, and we'll record that down here. Again, we'll want to unlink that, and then we'll want to give it a name. Call this soft position. And again, we can icon that if we want to. Now, to make these examples a little bit easier for us to see what's going on, I'm actually going to put our fixtures at full. I'm going to zoom them down, and we will adjust their position. There we go. We have a queue with our spots and our washes on. Our washes are a little hidden, but that's okay. We'll see them more in a minute. So now we've created our soft palettes. We need to now put them in the execute screen with some other palettes so that they know what to do. The color, we're going to take the first 10 colors. We're going to copy those to our execute screen for each group of fixtures. We're going to go to position. We're going to take our handful of set positions here, and these only contain currently, I believe, the spots. So we'll only be able to see this example on the spots with this demo show. Right. We'll put that down there. Now, for each attribute set, you can either create a palette that contains all that information. So we could create a position palette that contains both color and position information, and that can become our soft palette, and we can make one big region. Otherwise, we would want to split these up into two separate regions. So we're going to copy our groups down here. You see that now we'll have our region for position, or sorry, for color and position for our spots. Now we'll take the soft palette. So we'll come up here, we'll grab our position soft palette, drop it right there. Go to color, scroll down to our color soft palette. We'll copy it here. And then again, we're going to want to copy this down so it works for our washes as well. Once you're in the execute screen and you have it all assembled, this looks very familiar to the palette-based execute screen we talked about previously here with the busking shortcuts. This is where they diverge though. This still works from the programmer. This is where we're going to tell it it's something special and it needs to work within the queues instead of the programmer. And that's done via this encoder button here for encoder E when you're in the execute screen. The item type button is something some of you may be familiar with. It's where you can change queue stacks in the execute screens from faders to solos to flashes and things like that. When you're dealing with pallets, though, you only have two options. You can make it a button, it's just a normal pallet button, or you can make it what's called a soft button. In this case, parentheses link. And what this is going to do is it's going to tell the desk that that pallet is something special. We'll talk about how that special palette works here in a minute once we create the queues that go with it. But we're going to do that for all of our soft palettes. Finally, we're going to select that whole area and set a region for it, similar to how we do with the palette-based timing. And now that we've created the palettes, we've told them they're soft palettes, we've made our regions, now we need to write the queues associated with them. So for our quick example here in the beginning, we're just going to update this queue. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our fixtures. We're going to pick our position soft palette. We're going to select our colors and grab our color soft palette. And then we're simply going to merge position and color into this queue. Real simple, nothing fancy there. The one thing I am going to do, because our washes aren't contained within our position soft palette, I'm just going to update that position for those washes real quick here. You'll notice that when we did that, our fixtures went straight down. They went back to whatever was contained in the soft palette currently. That's because we have not told it which soft palette to use. So what we've done here is we've created a queue. In this queue, we have references to soft 1 and to the position soft for the spots. See the little tick mark, you can see the name of the palette. Just like any other queue, it's now a reference. But what it's going to do is this queue is going to now ask these soft palettes, so for our position and our color, what color should I be? What position should I be in? Just like any other palette. But because we told those guys that they're special over here, they're now going to look to this region and say, what color should I be? What position should I be in? Which means any choice here is going to affect the output of the fixtures. If you notice though, unlike the palette-based timing that we've talked about previously, it's not actually going to the programmer. Our programmer is still completely clear. What we're doing is it's actively updating the value within this queue as you choose here. So it's live updating your queue for you instantly. So this queue, every time I turn it on now, is going to be red and blue. If we change that to something like cyan and magenta, now every time again, it's going to be cyan and magenta. Change the position, same story. So a really smooth way of making your show file a little more tidy, keeping your programmer open for things that might come up that you might need to do on the fly, or if you just prefer not to work with the programmer during a show, this is a great option for it. Now, the palette-based timing that we see in the palette regions here, we don't get the live timing. However, we can do any timing we want. So it's a little bit more work to get there, but it is way more powerful than just saying 3-star and touching a palette, because we can contain much more complex timing in a queue. There's several ways we can do that. We can create a stack here with a bunch of different times. We could create other queues either in the execute screen or on a playback with, again, a bunch of different times. For this example, what we're going to do is we're going to create a handful of queues just up here in the execute screen and make them buttons so that we can choose different timings for our light. So this is going to be a little bit of a process, but we'll get through it quickly. We'll grab our spots. We'll say 3 seconds to our soft palette. We'll grab our washes and we'll say 3 seconds to our soft palette. And I'm just going to record these straight into the execute. So we'll record this one here. Call this free fade. Go back to our palettes. We'll grab our spots. We'll go 3-star. Going to give us a left to right fade in this example. We'll grab our washes and do the same thing. And the reason I'm selecting them separately is so that the timing spans individually across each group. If I grabbed both of them at once and did this, it would go through both groups as though they were one group. For this one, we will call this 3 forward. Grab our guys again. We'll go 3-star this time. We will go backslash, which is going to make it go backwards. So right to left this time. So 3-star backslash. And every time I'm clicking my soft palette to assert that timing to that soft palette. We'll record that one. And we will go 3 backwards. Now we got our last two. We'll do a 3-star plus to our soft palette. And for our spots, same thing, 3-star plus soft palette. This is going to be a 3 out, so we'll do out. And our final can timing, just to give us all the options, we can do 3-star minus and our soft palette. And there we go. There's all of our default timings. Now, remember I said you can do any timing you want because you can do complex timings. In the queue, every fixture can have its own timing. You're not restricted to spreading a given time across a group. So this means we can do even more complex things. So if I wanted to create a queue with my stage left spots doing a 3-star plus, my stage right spot's doing a 3-star plus, and maybe my wash is doing a random, which would be 3-star period. There's a lot of weird things going on there. We have this group doing that group doing this, and these lights are going random. All these different things going on. We can put those in a queue. We'll just call it random. So we've created all of these queues. If we look within the queue, all they are is a single queue, and they contain our soft palette reference. But if we go to view times, you'll see we have some timing in here. In this case, this is the 3-second fade one. So you can see for our fixtures, we have a 3-second fade. We look at the more complex ones. There we go to our one of our 3-star queues here. And we look at this. Again, just a reference to the soft palette, nothing special. And then here's our complex timing on color. So what's going to happen is anytime we activate these queues, whichever one's activated last or was the last active, considering we're dealing with LTP channels, that's the timing we're going to get. So if we do our fade in, fade out, clear out here, you see that it's honoring that timing. Now, we didn't put any position timing in it, so if I hit fan out, the lights are just going to move. We'll simply straighten them out so we can see what's going on. But if I click blue on both sets of lights, you can see them transition in. If we click left to right and we go back to yellow, you can see I can make them both go left to right. So really powerful, really flexible. You could create a series of queues just for your spots, for position, just for your spots for color, just for your washes for position, just for your washes for color. You can really dig down into it and create some really complex things. So the last part of this is obviously I can turn all these queues on, but I probably don't want all of them on at once when I'm picking my time. I want to see which timing I currently have selected. So the execute screen has an accommodation for that. It's called solo. So if these all go into a region together, or if they're directly next to each other, I can select them all. Come over here again to encoder E. This time, because we're dealing with queue stacks, we're going to have a few more options. And we're going to pick solo. The SO shows up in the corner. What that means now is that it's only going to allow me to pick one. So now I can just pick my timings up here. So if I decide I want a left to right transition, I pick it. And I pick my new colors. And you see I get my left to right transition. If I want my random transition, here you'll see that because I did separate timings for the left side and the right side of the spots, I get that timing. And then we did random for our washes, so they're going to kind of go and do whatever they want. And that random should be different each time. So really cool, really powerful. The last thing we're going to show you that you can do with your soft palettes is create a dynamic color picker for your color effects. So we already have one region here with soft 1 in it. We're going to take that, we're going to copy everything except for the soft palette 2 more times. We have 3 almost identical regions. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our colors palette window, and we're going to copy our soft palette 2 times. We give these unique names so we can keep track of them. This will become soft 2. Yes. This one will become soft 3. We'll take soft 2 and soft 3. We'll copy those to our execute screen. And we'll put them in their respective rows so that they end up with the regions with the rest of them. Remember, this is where we have to tell the soft palettes there's something special. Currently, they're still just normal palettes. So we'll go to encoder E, say you're a soft palette, and you're a soft palette. You'll see they get a little S up in the corner, and then they get a little number once they're within a region. We'll set our regions. So we've literally just done the same thing 3 times, nothing special. This is where we start doing cool stuff, though. If we want to use these regions within our effects, we can. So if we were to grab our spots, we will add an effect, a color effect. In this case, we'll do a 3-color palette-based effect. Instead of choosing real colors, though, we're going to choose soft 1, soft 2, and soft 3. The effect isn't doing anything. Kind of odd, but we also haven't told it to do anything. Right now, currently, all 3 of these are listed as yellow. If I come in here and I go red, white, and blue, now our effect is running. And of course, we can play with this effect. We can tell it to go within groups. We can tell it to be center out. Turn our crossfade down to 20% so we get a little bit more contrasting effect. And there's our color effect. So really cool to be able to do that. We can then record this effect if we want. And one really cool thing about this is the timing of the effect, which I'll show you in a minute, will change the transition in and out of colors. So we're going to call this color snap because we didn't put any timing in it. Now we're going to go back without changing anything. We're just going to go back to our effect here. We're going to go to view times. We're going to say effects in and out, fade time. We'll do 3. We've been using 3 seconds for everything so far. And we will record that here as color fade. So if we look at the item, we have our Q for the 3-second fade. We view the Q, we have 3 seconds on our effects. We look at our effect here, we have effect fade in and fade out. We'll give that 3 seconds. Just so we know that we've got our timing covered. Close out of these. Now, we already showed how you can grab this, and we can change our effect. If I wanted to go red, green, blue, there it is. If I wanted to go cyan, yellow, and magenta, cyan, yellow, and magenta, I could do that. Now, I'll switch to this color effect. Remember, again, we can make these solos so we don't actually turn them both on. We'll switch to this, and not only does it fade in the Q, but if I change colors again, if we go back to red, white, and blue, you'll see that the transition from color to color is now softened as well. If we go back to red, green, blue, when I hit green, see that it gently transitions the white to green. And of course, if we turn it off, if we had put a release time, You see there we get a slow transition out. So again, lots of control here. And, we're using color as an example here because it's easiest to show. It's also the most common attribute these days with LED fixtures and things like that being accessible. But it works for everything. You want to do this with beams and gobos, zoom. You want to do it with your positions, as we showed briefly in the beginning. As long as it's a palette, it works. So very powerful, very useful. It does take a little bit of work to set up, but once you get it set up, you'll have an amazing looking show. And you'll be doing it all on the fly rather than having to cue the entire show. So hope you found this useful. As always, you can find us at www.campsislighting.com.